Welcome everybody, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com, and today I'm here with Alex Newton, the CEO and founder of K-lytics. Hi Alex.
Well, hello and good evening everybody.
It's fantastic to have everyone here today, and I am really excited to bring you this webinar because we all know that understanding Amazon data will help us sell more books and reach more readers. But I don't know about you, but most of us do not want to spend our time wading through Amazon trying to fathom the massive amounts of data that are generated like all the time, and every hour things change. We just need someone to help us through it now, because we all just want to get back to writing. That's why we do this, right? So I found Alex, I think it was about 18 months ago now, when I started co-writing Sweet Romance with my mum, and I didn't know anything about the niche, and I found a report on K-lytics by Alex on sweet romance, sweet contemporary romance, and then I found one on mysteries, and then I was like, wow, this is amazing data. I got on the phone with Alex, and you know, I'm just so impressed with his ability to sift through the data and find this useful information. So I really, and keep it updated. This is the other thing. This is not like, oh, this was made ages ago and now it's all out of date. This is up-to-date data. So Alex is going to help us this evening understand some of the data in a way that will help you sell more books. And I have my notebook ready. I hope you all have your notebooks ready too. So just so you know how this evening is going to work, Alex is going to do a presentation for about 45 minutes with things that you can action so you can take lots of notes. Then he's going to tell you a bit about how you can use K-lytics data. And then we're going to have a Q&A so you can ask your questions live. Now, I will be manning the question box. So if you have questions during the session, please just type them in as you've typed in where you're calling in from, and I will be on the other line. It's just the two of us here this evening. So it's me on the chat and Alex speaking, and then we'll be going through that Q&A and answering as much as we can from you guys. So I think that's about it. Alex, are you ready?
Well, I am ready and I'm energized, and I have to say nothing beats the energy of a live webinar. So great to do this here with you, and I would say let's take it away, shall we?
Yeah, excellent. Right, over to you.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, you know, just a very brief word about myself. Joanna and I were like laughing so much because we share a common fate in terms of we wanted to get out of the corporate rat race. We have corporate careers and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, I spent 20 years and loved the career as a corporate management consultant, and, you know, traveled the world and spent, unfortunately, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in meeting rooms and hotel rooms. And, you know, at some point my little daughter was born. So 4 years ago, I decided to quit my job or profession as a management consultant and, you know, got into the publishing industry, where I actually originally started some 20 years ago. So here I am, and Joanna and I were laughing so much because here's this guy on the left-hand side, that is me. And when I started out K-lytics 4 years ago, I said, you know, the last thing I want to do is to ever wear a suit again. And here we are 4 years later, you know, doing webinars, and I still haven't figured how to do a professional headshot without a suit. So here we go. But on other things, I succeeded with K-lytics. You know, here's my wife and daughter. I play the guitar. I live in lovely south of Germany. Have lost a lot of hair and grew gray one on top of it, refurbishing a house from the 1930s in the bottom right-hand corner. I love books. I love publishing. I love the industry. And yeah, we have a little pony there. And so here we are with K-lytics. You know, how did I get into this? I entered in here, you know, during the gold rush time, which was about 4 years ago, when Joanna, I think I can say every John, Dick, and Harry jumped onto Kindle publishing and uploaded a paleo diet recipe book expecting to get rich or something like this. And I joined in at the same time, although I have to say I very quickly figured out, you know, in all these get rich quick on with ebooks type of courses, that if you look at Amazon data, you know, it's not that easy as just uploading some junk stuff and thinking that one can get rich. So my purpose in all of this, you know, now that I have figured the numbers, at the time I started analyzing the site, and you will see the type of data we look at and say, well, you know, it's such a wealth of information on the Amazon site. I wish people use it like, a business would be using market research data. But of course, many of us, we're artists, we're writers, we are not in the numbers. So I gave some people the reports, and, the first people tore it out of my hands. And then they said, well, can you do this also for a level deeper subcategories? And here we are 4 years later. And my purpose is really to help writers live their passion and make it viable for them by helping them to make better and faster publishing decisions and sell more books, of course. But here we are tonight, and tonight's topic, and let's briefly talk about this very challenge that all of us, all the authors, all the publishers have. And the challenge is this whole industry has become a crowded place, hasn't it? And if you look at the numbers, there are currently, we counted them, 4.8 million plus English language titles on the Kindle store. And on top of that, there are 70,000 new titles added every month. Actually, this month it was 100,000 titles, a bit like an outlier. And if you just look at that, what this means every year, this means the book supply is still growing 17% a year every year. And I think that's really, really amazing. Now, obviously, that puts a challenge to the authors and publishers, because we hear people scream about how to be discovered more, how about my visibility of the books. And the thing that aggravates the situation is clearly that Amazon has taken the strategy, although it is a shop, when it comes to the Kindle store, shelf space is unlimited. So Amazon started acting like a Library of Congress. In fact, we looked at the Amazon data. They're bigger than the Library of Congress by 27 times now when it comes to electronic titles, and also physical books in the warehouses. They're about 1.5 times bigger than the Library of Congress by now. So the books are not going away, and that leads to one situation, which is good news and bad. If you look at Amazon on the left-hand side, as all the books, all these 6 million Kindle books, the 4.8 million English titles, they are this mountain, right? And on the right-hand side, you have the money that Amazon is making. And there are questions as to what is the real revenue of Amazon. So having talked to a couple of guys, the estimates vary, right? But let's say about 1 to 1.5 billion Amazon makes in Kindle revenue. And when we did all the formulas and calculations of ranks and all this stuff, the answer is basically the top 50,000 rank position. That is not books, it's the rank positions. And obviously the books change through these positions. The top 50,000 make 87% of that revenue. And that's good and bad news. Top 50,000 rank positions, you can get in there. And the other thing is, if your book is inactive, then you're in this Library of Congress part of the mountain, which basically just earns 13% of the whole thing. And today I want to talk about how to climb that mountain. And obviously what I talk about is only one of many factors, but let's see how together we can make this journey and hopefully help you a little bit up that journey up the mountain. All right, so what are we going to do today? I had talked to a couple of people beforehand, and they said, Alex, could you very briefly also, to those people who are new to this, understand the basics? So we're going to talk very briefly about sales rank, bestseller status categories, but also for the professionals amongst you, I'm pretty sure you will hear some things that you don't know yet. Then we're going to talk about how can Amazon, this data, help you save time, money, and creative resources, and of course, hopefully sell more books. We're going to talk about 7 steps that let you find the best categories. I so often get the question, Alex, you have all the data, so what are the best categories? Well, you're going to find out, because today you're going to see an approach that looks at, well, what are the best categories for you, not somebody else says. And finally, some tips and tricks that you won't know yet, that's guaranteed. And as Joanna said, I'm briefly going to talk also about what we do at K-lytics and how it helps you, and hopefully we have a brilliant Q&A as well. All right, so about to dive in. Joanna, any comments from your side before we really get into the journey here?
No, I'm looking forward to getting into it. So yeah, let's go.
There we go. Let's just briefly talk about some of the basics. Very important. sales rank and what many people miss about sales rank. Yes, there are things to miss. So let's go to Amazon together. So if you go onto the Kindle store and if you click on any books, then obviously you get the header of the book. And the next step when you do this, is obviously to scroll down, and there, the readers may very often not even look at that information. It's always the authors that scroll down on the screen. And what you have here is the product details. And there you will have two values. One, in this case example here, is a number 4 Kindle Store ebooks nonfiction, yada, 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 walking. So that's one category. And then there's the other piece of information, which is 25,176 paid in the Kindle Store. And the first piece that many people miss is that these are two entirely different pieces of information. And because the first one says, that's here on the left-hand side, the first piece of information is the category bestseller rank. So it says number 4 in Kindle ebooks, nonfiction, sports, yada, 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 walking, you know, a 5th level category. And that just says, okay, that's what it is in the categories. And so many people claim, hey, I am a number 1 bestseller. And you really have to ask them, well, where? In the Kindle Store? That's the number on the right-hand side, or in just some obscure category. So the right-hand side, that's really what we're interested in, the Amazon bestsellers rank store-wide. So this one here is 25,000 as compared to all the other 4.8 million English-speaking titles. And you can also see how this really behaves over time. So there's the completely arbitrary example, but you see here, as you go from left to right, that's days of observation. So this is the sales rank over 30 days. And you see here at the very top, this was a book in the children's category ranking between number 1 and number 10. So the author, you know, at the time, very, very proud. But if you look at the absolute sales rank after here, a quick promotion, it drops down into oblivion, 500,000, 90,000, 418,000. So you see both things, category rank and sales rank, are entirely different thing. And that's going to be important as we go forward. Now, what to do with it? Both of these values have their uses. If you want to research your market and, you know, be proud and boast towards your family that you're a bestseller, category bestseller rank on the left-hand side has its value because it will indicate what is hot within a certain genre, within a certain category, etc. And on the other side, the Amazon bestsellers rank will indicate the relative level of sales relative to all these other books that, remember the picture, that is the bottom of that mountain. Now comes one little more technical picture here, but this is, I try to really explain what the guys of Amazon A9, that, you know, that is the subsidiary in Palo Alto that does all these sorting and ranking algorithms. But if you really boil it down, if I were to explain the Amazon bestseller rank, so really why am I 25,000 in the whole store and my friend sold fewer books than I did and he has a higher sales rank, you know, why is that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. On the left-hand side, you can say whenever somebody clicks here on a purchase or on a download, a purchase or a download, that is what's happening here on the left-hand side, right? And these purchases or downloads, they are like votes, and these votes on a given day, they have a value, but this value decays over time, right? And as it decays over time, you know, at any given day, your votes are counted, and if your sales were a couple of days back, you have less votes, so to speak, and all the votes of all your sales and over days are counted together, and that counts towards a rank. So, you know, here, very simple example, just that you understand. Say on day 1, 100 people buy or download your book, and on day 3, you have 150 sales. That's all. That's all. Now, you see what happens to the 100 is you have 100 votes on day 1, and then on the day 2, it's like roughly, nobody knows the exact decaying value, but it's like 50, 25, and so on. And your 150 books on day 3 are worth 150, and then it's cut by half, cut by half, cut by half. So you see, when you have a spike in sales, basically the whole effect is gone after like 10 days, you know, nothing scores anymore. And if you just look at day number 3, it would be the 25 leftover votes, decayed vote from the first day of sales plus the 150. So you have 175 votes on day 3. And then you rank, for example, number 2 here in the rank position, and another book was better than you, another was worse. And this is how it works. And so it's basically, it is like a voting mechanism, and you can see it. I'm not going to dive here into the details, but you can see this, it goes up and down. So when a book gets a purchase, it's lifted up, and all these little red blobs are like hourly movements. So you really see it's going up when there's a vote, and then it starts decaying over time. That's the whole secret of it. Now, but what do you do with all this to sell more books or to understand market, right? So does #1 sales rank mean high sales? Well, as we just said, if it's the #1 in the whole Kindle store, you bet you have a lot of sales. But if it's the #1 in some obscure category, you may be a #1 bestseller, but you don't sell much. So whenever a family member or a fellow author says, oh, wow, I'm a #1 in a category, beware of bestsellers that don't sell anything. What you have to understand is, for example, now, no offense taken, I love bonsais, but if you were to put in the word bonsai, I think this was from 1 or 2 days ago, the example, and you as a reader, you search for how to grow bonsai trees, and you see this book coming up here. Oh, it has a bestseller badge. It must be cool, it must be selling something. So you click on it and you click your buy button, and your reader has bought the book. Now, us as the authors or publishers, we usually have a little closer look, and we do go onto the book and we scroll down, and it says here, oh, #1 bestseller in Japanese garden. But if you go down and look through the details, you see it is rank 52,000 in the paid Kindle store. So it's not at the very top of the mountain, it's not at the very bottom, but rank 50,000 by all means. That's not like he's not going to buy a Ferrari car selling books with a bonsai. So therefore, once you have, that's the decisive value here, the 52,000 in the paid Kindle store. And if you collect the data of many authors, and there is currently a difficulty, obviously, with how much do the page reads influence this? Well, the money is earned through the page read, but mind you, the sales rank is triggered by either a pre-order or a purchase or a download, that is a borrow. That is all what counts into the sales rank. The actual page reads don't, right? So there are tables, I'm not going to go into this here in detail, but there are tables that roughly, equate sales rank to, in the old world, how many copies a day would that be? So sales rank 50,000, who knows, like 2.5 copies or downloads a day at the most. So here we go. This is what's happening with sales rank. And what you can do, for the interesting part now, is what you can do with a single book. You can start looking at all the books in a category. And so you move from the individual performance of an individual books, you start moving to, well, what is actually the performance of whole categories on Amazon Kindle? And for those of you who are, just to orient you, when I talk about categories tonight, I mean, most of you will know what they are. But just to be sure, if you go on the Kindle store, you have usually on the left sidebar, you have these main categories that range from arts and photography all the way down to whatever travel, I think, is at the very end. If you click on it, business and money, when I talk about subcategory, I mean like the next level. So business and money would be breaking down further. And then if you click here on entrepreneurship, that would go further down into subcategories. And if you did this whole game with all the categories, then you would add another on level 4 and level 5. There is currently some 5,000 plus of these categories that you can choose from, that you can work with. So here we go. That is basically how it looks like. And you may ask yourself, well, that is all nice, but why should you worry about categories in the first place? You will see in a second that or you can probably already tell, Joanna, that I'm a big fan of categories. I'm potentially the category man, others are the keyword man, others are the newsletter man, the Facebook ads man. Of course, all these things have to work in unison, but I'm going to talk specifically about categories today and why they're important. For example, the whole operations of Amazon, also if you go to other parts of the Amazon business. It's basically a big retail shops, and retail shops are managed by category, by product category. So if you go onto the landing page, the new landing page actually of the bookshop, Amazon pushes here a category-based shopping experience. On the Kindle store, it's not that explicit yet, but I think it's only a matter of time that they may adjust this as well. So the whole thing is about, if you are browsing and not searching for something, you want to browse by categories. Now, with this, the other thing that why these categories are important is the category choice drives this obscure orange bestseller badge that we just saw. And when I typed the example of the bonsai tree, you saw that, as a potential customer, a buyer, if you see that orange badge, you go like, oh, that's an interesting book. You're going to click on it. So, for example, here, this book here is the #1 in Kindle store, Business and Money, International Global Marketing. So that is a book that has this orange bestseller badge. So what happens is, if you type in the word marketing at the point in time I did this, into the search bar on Amazon, this very book here, will show on page 1 as a bestseller. Also, other books are going to come up, and that's a very important point also to consider. If you do a search here on Amazon in the traditional search bar, so this is not looking at the bestseller lists, then all these displayed results here are not necessarily going to be in search order. This is where in sales rank order. It is an order where also other factors come into play, and many people don't know this. So here, reviews, pricing, how much money is earned by Amazon, and also your own shopping experience influences how these are displayed. But as you see here, the likelihood of a book that has that bestseller badge, even if, I go back one slide, even if in the overall Kindle store, that book is only ranked 2,735, which is a very good rank by all means. But, there are 2,734 better books, but it has the orange badge. And as a customer, you're more likely to click on this. So being a #1 and knowing in what category to rank is a good thing. And tell you what, one would think, Joanna, that your Harry Potter from England, doesn't have to use these strategies. But look here what's happening. This is just from yesterday. Harry Potter, #17, paid in the Kindle store, right? Look where the #1 bestseller badge is actually coming from. Right. Children's ebooks growing out facts like family life, orphans and foster homes, because Harry is an orphan.
That's crazy. And that seems like an interesting, we're going to get into subcategories, just so people know you're going to move into these subcategories. I did have a question. I have a whole load of questions, but I have one on your previous screen around the marketing one. I don't know if you could just go back to that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you're talking about categories, and people can see there 1 to 48 of only over 30,000 results for this long category. But that seems like a keyword. So is that search there a combination of category and keyword in terms of the way those come up?
Yes, that's right. Because what is interesting, if you type a very, very broad keyword into the search bar, such as marketing or romance, or paranormal romance even, Amazon will do two things. They will confine this bit here, which is the selection of a category, down to what is fitting, right? So it already selects here a category. If you type romance, this will immediately switch to romance, even if you start on the Kindle store or the Amazon store, right? And then this one then is also triggered by this being a keyword. So here you have actually a classic mix where the keyword marketing is displaying results out of the category by default, business and money, marketing, sales, marketing, etc. So you may want to play around with this a bit, but the important thing is, so if you are not in the overall category romance, for example, and if you're a romance book, you have to be in romance, because Amazon might immediately, because it's so broad, immediately confine the search results of picking them from a category, in that case romance, unless you have a super pertinent keyword that would be a fit.
No, that's great. And just so everyone knows, we are going to come on to how you get those categories. Some people are making comments that you can't select some of these categories. You're going to come to that later. So just wanted to let everyone know that you're going to come on to that. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, and the big secret is going to reveal. You're going to see how you can get in each and every one of those categories. So it's going to be revealed. So one thing I have to admit, though, I already alluded to it, I'm not going to talk left, right, and center, up and down about categories. And no, categories are not the silver bullet. Joanna, we all know many things have to work in unison, starting with a good book, newsletters, keywords, ads, you name it. The categories, however, are one very important part in the whole game, as are keywords, as are good blurbs, good book descriptions, great book titles. So no silver bullet. However, the main reason why I look into categories and have been doing so for 4 years is they are the only factor that really provide you with like vital market data if you really care to look into in depth in what the books in categories are and what their performance is. Just scratching on the surface, we talked about the book performance of single books, right, a minute ago. So imagine we looked at the performance of a single book, not just once in a webinar, but we do so every day, do so for a couple of days, monitor the top 100 titles in the bestseller list, and then compute an average. You get to, well, what are actually the high selling categories on Kindle? And what people do not know is the Amazon platform, probably also driven by the demographics of the typical Amazon Kindle reader, the highest selling ones are, well, literature and fiction is obviously a big umbrella category here, dark gray. Bigger than nonfiction, also dark gray. I call these umbrella categories. And then romance, mystery, thriller, suspense, sci-fi, they are the big ones. And actually, it's only this month that nonfiction briefly here overtook or got on par with science fiction and fantasy, then teen and young adult, then religion and spirituality, and then you see it's getting much, much smaller. And there was one question, does Amazon automatically put orange badge on you if you rank #1? Well, if you are in the #1 in the category and you do so, I think, over 7 days and have at minimum a sales rank of 45,000, you should be awarded the thing, but you cannot put it onto the book yourself. I think that's against the terms and conditions. But anyway, back to this. You have this as, you have to know this. If you publish on Kindle, you have to know romance, mystery, thriller, suspense, sci-fi, teen, young adult, and then you really get into niche markets. That's the high level picture. And as we said, it's such a huge market without data. And if you a little bit want to write for the money as well, how do you know where to drill? And this is why we look at this category data. And I'm going to share more of this data here with you in the webinar. And also very important, this is here the tail end of just looking at the top 30 categories, also knowing what not to do. Just the other day, there was an elderly couple and say, hey, we want to publish on Kindle, we know gardening. And I said, well, very good. But, if you want to earn money with publishing Kindle books about gardening, I strongly urge you not to engage in the project. But, you may want to do so if you want to rank #1 and say, I'm the best gardener in the world and have an easy authority-based rank. But for earning money, you probably should go somewhere else if you want to write about gardening. All right. So it's also about not to do. And with this data, now we're really going to dive even deeper, from categories to subcategories, subcategory, and then we talk about how do you get in them. Well, you can derive from this data 2 very important points. Most of you will jump right onto the right-hand side of this picture, what I call tactics, how to market. How do I get into these Amazon categories? Which one shall I select for my very book? That is a perfectly valid purpose, and we're going to cover it. But if you really start investigating these categories, you also see on the right-hand side on like very big questions like what to write. I'm a sci-fi writer. Shall I take my career towards dystopian or space opera or military sci-fi or cyberpunk? If you just not want to write just what comes to your mind, but be a little bit about what does the market want, you're going to have spectacular data on this. So the most people do ask me, well, Alex, you have all this data. What is the best category to write in? And my answer is usually, well, it depends. And also for those people who just want to say, well, Alex, I publish my book next week. What are the categories, best categories to put my book in? I, again, will answer, it depends. And then I get the next question, well, great, on what? And then we start talking. And so now I want to teach you that a very basic 7-step system that you can really approach both from a very, excuse my consulting speak, strategic point of view. So what to write, where to take my career, what should be my publishing project, but equally so for very tactical purposes, what should be the 5 categories that I put my book into when I do the book launch next week or the relaunch. So let's dive into it. Step number 1 sounds like a cliche, but really have to talk about your goals when we talk about genres and category. Well, why that? Well, what does a writer write for? Probably usually for passion, fun. Yeah? Many of us will write for the money because if you're a professional writer, you have to pay your bill. Or you write for the authority because you are, an expert in a certain nonfiction field and you want to say, hey, here's a book, this proves my authority. And of course, there are other reasons to write as well, whether it's therapeutic or, some writers have nothing else to do. That will be not my focus today, but we're going to talk about those writers who have as a goal writing for the passion, writing for the money, or writing for the authority. Okay, and by the way, I'm going fast. You will also get a replay to really absorb this, but I really want to get you through this material and give you lots of food for thought here. So if you write for the passion, as an example, you seek the best topical fit of your book with a given category, for example. You don't care about the money or the bestseller badge, you just say, hey, I'm a cyberpunk writer and therefore I put this book into cyberpunk. It's a really cyberpunk thing. Or you are an expert for the photography of volcanoes like the guy here. That's his passion. He even has his feet burn. And he says, I want to have the appropriate photography category. So this is when you write for your passion. And you should marry that with a purpose that can be money oriented. And here you may seek the categories with very high sales, but I also keep telling people, and we look at this in a second deeper, with little competition. High demand, low supply, as you would say in economics. Okay, and if you write for the authority, again, you will select different categories or genres in the first place, because what you seek is a category or genre where you can rank as a #1 bestseller or an authority easily, where you can dominate a certain field of expertise. And obviously all these purposes are not mutually exclusive. So you see, before you ask what is the best category, do me a favor and write down a little bit, what are you actually aiming for with the publication that you do. Then, of course, if you do write a little bit for the money, or especially if you're a publisher, your next step will be, okay, tell me those categories that have high sales. And the tool to use there is on Amazon, the category bestseller list. If you click on bestsellers, it will take you there, and then you scroll down, you get to, in this case, Kindle best sellers, right? So what we have here is and note there's an important point. If you are on that part of Amazon, you are on the right-hand part. You are diving into what is called bestseller list. Bestseller lists at any point of time only show you the top 100 best ranking books in that very category at a point in time. If you are in the browse mode that we had earlier when we looked at that marketing example, it says here, result 1 to 60 of 3,000 results in the Kindle store, blah, 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 blah. I've clicked all my way down here to the Christian Amish romance category. So the left-hand side will give you information about the size of the category, list all the books. The right-hand side is what we're talking about now. Let's find those bestseller lists where the performance of these top 100 titles in the categories is really, really high, because here the books are really sorted in sales rank, updated every 2 hours or actually every day if it's like a lower performing category. So here they are. What you have to look at, for example, if we now dive down to the next level, Joanna, which is the subcategories, there are 426 of it. This is what's currently highest selling on a subcategory level on Kindle. And you see there are still pretty broad genres, women's fiction, #1, thrillers, then suspense, then mystery, then contemporary fiction, then contemporary romance. Romantic comedy, extremely strong, right? So you have here a top of the list, and you also have a bottom of the list. So if you really don't want to make any money, but just write for the authority, you could be the leading expert in sports, outdoors, and rodeos. Perhaps not so much the European amongst us, but potentially the people in the US. But you get the idea. Now, so here you can look at, let's add up the performance of all these individual books, and you craft a picture, and then you go, yeah, you can also look at this over time. So for example, here, to share one tip and trend with you. I know there are many romance writers here in the audience. Now, I'm not saying that steamy romance is not selling, but what I'm telling you is, look, literature and fiction erotica category since 2014 has been on a decline. So has the search results on Google on Google Trends. But here, the clean and wholesome romance category in Kindle, ever since we started monitoring and Amazon introduced the category, this is when you jumped, I think, on board, Joanna, February 2014, the sales of clean and wholesome romance books have actually grown by a factor of 8.
Yeah, we only published last year, so it was around April 2017. But having been through your report on clean and wholesome romance, I think it's very encouraging, actually. What is funny, I think, is a trend in the erotica market at the moment for people to remove the sex and then republish their books as clean and wholesome, which I think is kind of hilarious. But no, it's great to see that data.
Yeah, that is certainly funny, just refurbishing the books. But, when you look at the data over time, you can then also really understand genres and subgenres. So I'm not going to bore you here in the live with all the details, but you see here the orange one, the blue one is teen young adult fiction, science fiction and fantasy, so the broad one. And then underneath you have the science fiction part of it. And the green line, is, well, ever since 2015, teen and young adult romance / science fiction and dystopian. So you see after the cool down of the Hunger Game time, you see also the cool down in the related book market. All right. And just to go then to the next step. So you could jump onto those big, broad, super high selling categories that we had in the list just a second ago. But if you want to compete in generic contemporary women's fiction, you will have to have a lot of marketing budget, and you will compete head on with the traditional. So the next criteria or step to apply is to talk about low competition. And here's, by the way, a little Amazon search hack. We just looked at the competition of, for example, if you typed into the search bar, cozy mystery, paranormal, because you're interested in paranormal mysteries, there's a lot going on in paranormal in cozy mystery right now, you have here 3,000 search results. What many people don't know, and this is a little hack, while Amazon, unlike Google, is really struggling with the end operator when typing in keyword, they do accept the minus sign, which is a negative operator. So if you wanted to exclude books that have witches as a keyword or in the book title, type minus witch, and then if you want to filter out something else, type minus ghosts, and the list is going to get smaller and smaller, just as a little hack.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, woohoo, that goes on my list. Yeah.
Oh my God, you really have to put it on your list, because you are on Amazon. You start with, let's start with paranormal romance, right? And you get to, oh my God, more than 50,000 books.
Oh yeah.
But I don't want to have. I notice you can even take out the sponsored results. If you do sponsored, the sponsored ones should go away. Now this time
Oh,
it doesn't work.
not quite. But that's
No,
really cool because it's very useful, especially in something like paranormal, because I write in supernatural and that's often overlaps with paranormal. So I would love to get rid of vampires, for example, in the search and have a look
right.
at, other things because vampires seem to dominate, shifters probably at the moment. But no, that's fantastic. Good little hack.
Yeah, so here also try use the gallery view, not the list view, because then you get 60 things here on the thing, and so really good. In paranormal, take out vampire. Now I mistyped here, but that's you get an idea how it works, and the search results
Great.
will change.
And we should, just while you're having a drink there, we should also say this is all relevant for non-fiction as well. I know you're using a lot of fiction examples because fiction sells a hell of a lot of books on the Kindle, but as someone who writes in self-help and other categories, non-fiction, this is all relevant for whatever category you are trying to rank in. And it's all about discoverability, visibility, and making sales in that way. So the examples are just examples. It's relevant whatever you write.
Absolutely. And now back to the topic about competition. You see here, 40,000 search results, right? So if I now go back here to our screen and then say, okay, let's go for high selling categories. So high selling meaning lots of gold here, just as an analogy, but you don't want to have so many competing books. So the very simple framework we apply is there's I hope I don't scare you off like this looking like maths, but let's say we plotted here books, right? There are books that have lots of gold, high sales, but not many opponents or colleagues, I shall say. We're all artists, right? So not so much competition, right? But there are other books which are like so-so, and then you have yet other books where you really don't want to get into because you have mediocre sales, but you're facing lots of competition. That is, by the way, the problem I have with Erotica. Because if you type in, I think, billionaire romance, you get like 34,000 search results. And if you did this for real, now I know, Joanna, I'm scaring off people because it looks like mathematics at university. It's what I call this.
You do the maths, so we don't have to. That's how it works. Carry on with your maths.
So very simple. It's really don't leave the webinar now because it's really super simple. I show you. So every little blob, whether green or red, is one of these 3,000 categories, right? And we monitor them every month, and over time, all the books in it, and we compute. The further you go to the right, there we research what is the size of that category, which has become a little tough these days, but you can find out. And on the other axis, the higher you go on this plot, the higher the sales. So in simple terms, green is good. Orange is here so-so, and actually the non-sellers should be dark orange. Although, as we said, a non-selling category can be good for ranking purposes, not for sales purposes, but for ranking purposes. So just to give you one example of how it would work is, you could, for example, say, well, here is on the right-hand side in red, this blob is the category literature and fiction, erotica, romantic erotica. Average sales rank of the top 20 books is around 1,727 in the Kindle store. So really, really good. But competition, and I know there's been a little bit of a purge and a bit of commotion in the erotica categories in recent weeks. But there you go, 160,000 titles. Compare that to Gothic romance, where you have the same sales rank, but there is only 2,000 in the category. So the one over the other, same sales ranks, but the one is 70 times more competitive or less, whichever perspective you take, right? So another example would be here, teen and young adult, where they are both here about the same vertical line on this graph. They both have roughly 1,100 titles, here 1,200 titles, and one has a sales rank of 6,300, the other of 114,000. You get the idea. Same competition, but the one has 20 times higher sales. And this is how you can do a little more judgment. I get here the question, do you monitor this in English only? Yeah, right now it's only for the .com market at this stage. And what you can do for a single category, you can do for all subcategories in the category. So this is your romance market on Kindle. it's really, really good, right? And you have some, you can watch these names here in the replay, right? I don't want to bore you, but you can have here, you know, top right, just picking two, contemporary romance, very broad category, more than 100,000 titles. But all the way down here, you know, much lower sales, but also competition, less than 1,000 English titles in teen and young adult romance / science fiction and dystopian. You get the idea. I'm going through those a little faster. You can have a look in the replay at these screenshots. Science fiction and fantasy, also here, a very interesting market, because you see there are lots of what we call hot sells. Hot sells would be categories that have less than 2,000 English titles in the categories, but they sell like hotcakes, right? So some of these categories, you know, if you just look here, again, you have a spectrum that goes here from the very right. Many people think paranormal and urban may still be a niche market. It is not. It has grown into a huge mainstream market, albeit a hot one, you know, closing in, I think, 50,000 titles or something. Compare that with science fiction, fantasy / fantasy military, which is in the green zone down here, right? So you get the idea. So to conclude on this step, step 3 is, let's not only look for high sales, let's look also for low competition. This is how you strategically select your categories, not just tactically, but also for your whole writer career. Do you want to compete head on with the big ones, or do you want to look for a niche? And then the step 4 is you can blend this with a couple of categories, especially when you talk more tactics, that are easy to rank in. So that would be categories with low sales of the #1 title. You will see categories where you can rank as a #1, not on the Kindle store, but in that very category, right? So the one issue there is, though, is people use this to game the system. I'm not advocating in any way to game the system with this data, because I think you saw the Harry Potter example. Okay, Harry Potter is an orphan, so it's in a category related to orphans. Even that I feel is a stretch, but they do it. This one here is what I really hate. No offense taken, I have no clue who Kelly Siskind is, but I mean, why do you put a steamy romance stud novels into crafts, hobbies, and homes, crafts, hobbies, woodworking, just to get a #1 bestseller there? Joanna, I think that's obviously not what we're advocating.
No, I wouldn't advocate that either, but it does say this Habitat for Humanity build is about to erect more than walls. So essentially it's about a builder. So I actually find that hilarious, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I wonder if she designed this specifically for the category.
Well, she probably did design it. You know, fair enough. I'm not a policeman like other people. Fair enough, but where I do get agitated if I suddenly, because in our research we found the other one or other disguised romance novels in children's categories just for ranking purposes, which I think is a shame. But there you go.
I think Amazon's cracking down on that. But yes, our rule is put it in the right category so readers are happy.
Exactly. So how do you find the small categories? You know, you obviously can find them by clicking down once you get here to the level 4, level 5, but that's a lot of work to do manually. So here, I don't want to advertise the tool already, but you know, there are lots of categories that have only one title in it or so. And in fact, in our research, Joanna, that's a fun one. There are empty bestseller lists on Kindle, and you can put your book in there. So I don't know whether this one is still, so whoever pays $100 first here on the level webinar gets the right to put his book into the category. No, just
or go publish something right now.
Go publish something right now. Perhaps it's filled up by now, but this was like 2 weeks ago or so. I just stumbled across this where Far East travel photography, sorry, right now, no books in there. So just by putting your book in there, you're a #1 bestseller, which I find hilarious. All right, so easy to rank in, then you can, and then I say, well, but wait a minute, let's also talk about exposure. Do you want to have your book really only in romance, or do you want to have it in sci-fi because it's also sci-fi elements? This is the step 5. And here you just have to realize, ever since I think it was February last year, so it's been going on for quite a while, Amazon leading authors had received a mail by Amazon, which basically literally said you can put your book in more than 10 categories. So there you go. And if you're a big name and have your own Amazon representative, you get even more categories. So here we have Bella Forrest, who I really admire for what she achieved with all her series, you know, Shades of Vampire and all these things. But her book here in 17 categories. But if you then do look at it and in more detail, in more detail, you will also see here, well, social family issues, family adoption. There are always some very small ones in there, so helping with the bestseller badge. But see, it's literature and fiction. The book has mystery elements, the book has romance elements, the book has sci-fi elements, and it's targeted at teen young adult. So her categories are covering all the major branches that the book is pertinent, applicable to. So, and we're going to talk about how you get your book in there in just a second. Last one here, step 6, is about topical fit. That is, you know, what Joanna just said. I mean, by all means, you want to be found, because this is getting very technical. But if you were to look at the page source, if you're into Google Chrome and go into developer mode, you can look up the metadata, the keywords, and you see that category data is pushed into the metadata, even more than keywords before a book is clicked. So the way I think also Googlebot are catching Amazon pages. So you have to watch your topical fit too. So this means here you have an example. If you're in nonfiction, my gardening and horticulture, there are 46 categories, imagine, for gardening and horticulture, but there's only one for Japanese gardens, and that's the one you want to find and be in if you have a book about Japanese gardens. How do you find out in which categories your book are in? Yeah, Amazon removed that information. It used to be on any book page. If you clicked on the book page, let's take any book here just for argument's sake. So in the old days, right, you would see the category information, the other ones here at the very bottom. Amazon removed that about Christmas time this year. But the way you can ask Amazon, ask them, or you take the ASIN number of the book or a piece of the book title. The key point is that you get only one search result for it. So you paste it into the search bar, and you see here it's only one result for this, and you see it's categorized in Kindle. So you click on Kindle, you see it's in romance, so you click on that, you see it's in paranormal and romantic comedy. So usually I use Control and click on it to open up new windows to find out whether it's further down. You see 3 others. So you do this clicking until you can no longer click down to, and this is how you can collect all the categories that the book is in, to answer that question we just got there.
That was great. That was also, I couldn't work that out either. So thanks for that. That's so annoying that they've done that, because it used to be really easy. And, you know, you can still request Amazon Author Central to put you in others, but if you don't know where you are, it's really hard. So thanks for sharing that. That's great. Yes,
it's a little hack, you know, just click through. Important that you can put in the book title or the ACE number, but the important is it must show only one search result. And then you can click yourself down. And the last step is balancing all these things, right? So remember, we had 2 purposes. One is what to write, so you can look at categories from a strategic point of view, or it can be how to market. So in what tactical categories shall I put it? But the one point, this last step, is you then have to balance it all out. And what I keep telling people is, well, you need to start with the goals and define the genres and categories that are right for you and your requirements. You know, don't put your book in a category just because another guy or girl, gal in a Facebook group says that you should be in. You have to apply these criteria and make it work for you, either on this strategic level or at the very tactical level. You know, a good friend of mine, Chris Fox, you know, Right to Market, we work together, and Right to Market works, but obviously don't bend yourself so that you lose authenticity. So when you summarize all that approach, just to summarize, you know, the way we do it is you start with your goals. Do you write for the money, authority, passion? Think about, do you have a budget? You know, can you compete head on in a big mainstream market? What is your experience and skill level? You know, do you bring something to the table in the niche? We did a report on lit RPG, right? You know, it was very successful when Steven Spielberg launched the Ready Player One, right? But obviously, great category for a certain period of time. But if you're not into role-playing games, you know, people will smell from 100 miles that you're not authentic, right? So number 2, high category sales. So you look for the categories that are high sales. You look for some that have what we call the best sales to competition ratio, which is high sales combined with low competition. Remember those sneeze charts or snowflake charts? Then you want to blend in some easy, that should be east, not easy to rank in categories, and then try to get broad exposure across the big genre so that you're displayed properly across. Think about the topical fit and then start juggling with all these. And as said, you can put your book into up to 10 categories, Joanna, if you simply write an email to Amazon, remove me from here, put me into here, here, and here. All right, so, and yes, there are some categories that also are keyword dependent, but the long story short is, how do I find and get into these desired categories without spending months? John, I think that's the whole point, without spending months, because we had one question here. Well, yeah, but there is the storefront and there is the back end. Well, it is easier said than done, because the find part is extremely impossible. I mean, you can browse all those categories in the store, but if you upload your book in the Amazon KDP dashboard, there are these strange trees you can click on, right? And the whole point is they have whatever thousands, I think I counted them once, 2,600 whatever categories in there, but they are all not the storefront categories. So that's why we get here in the Q&A, but I don't find these categories, right? So here we go. So, and it has nothing to do with those 7 keywords either, right? You simply have to put your book into whatever categories in this dashboard, and then you have to mail Amazon KDP to change your categories. Because the one thing you have to realize, left-hand side is the Kindle Direct Publishing backend, which works with industry codes. And the right-hand side is the store front end. This gives you all the data and where the book is actually displayed. And Amazon in, 10 years, has never been able to make the two coincide. So there is basically a disconnect between the two. We care about what is on the right-hand side, and thank God Amazon has finally, opened up to, okay, you can put your book into a certain storefront category, right? So it is pretty hard to find out what the available categories are. It's almost next to impossible to find out, well, how are the books selling? Because of course, all of us, the artists, we go onto the website, we go into a bestseller list and we browse it. And there are even a couple of really good tactical tools that immediately give you the average sales rank or something of the top 100. But the sales rank fluctuates by whatever, plus minus 25% in a 24-hour period, as we've covered at the very beginning. So, and even more over a 30-day period. So unless you do this for many books and repeat the exercise every morning, you can be led totally astray, because just because on day one a green smoothie book shows up in the top 10, and then we have the scamming factor on top of it, doesn't really mean that these type of books for category are really also high performing well. So this is it, and Joanna asked me, okay, Alex, before we go into Q&A, can you tell us a little how, if you don't want to do it manually, also, what does K-lytics actually do so that you, the writers, the artists, can spend your time on your craft and let others, that is us, worry about the legwork when it comes to market research? Because mind you, there is a reason why Coca-Cola has a big market research department, why some publishers at least have marketing departments and data publishers. So if you're an indie author or indie publisher, you may not want to get into this, alone, because the gold rush times are over and it takes a little more to really get to the data. Good. So as you say, no worries. So very briefly, let me talk about, I think we're just a couple of minutes here over time, 3 minutes, but let me briefly talk about what we do, and then, you know, we try to cover as many questions as possible. And what I really usually do, I really go through the questions after the chat as well. And we, like in those TV shows or fundraising shows, when then all the people have to answer question afterwards on a chat, I will try to do that. Good. So the whole point is, let's stop the guesswork and let's not waste time with endlessly browsing the Amazon store. So Joanna asked me, what do we currently do at K-lytics? Because we've been there now for 4 years and have grown. So our whole mantra is research done for you, so that you, the author or publisher or agent for the matter, don't have to do that. And let me give you a little bit of what we do. So there is a membership area on the website, right? And I'm going to show you a little bit of what we have. It's basically for our K-lytics members, authors, agents, and publishers, and industry experts. And what we do there is, the whole core is, we talked about data. So we have a monthly genre performance database that you can download as an Excel sheet, play with it, sort it, search, filter it. And there you find, for every of these 3,000 categories updated every month, all the data you really need. You have the sales, the growth, the #1 sale, so is it easy to rank in? What's the average price level in the category? What's the lowest price of the #1 title? What's the level of competition? We now even cover how many books are Kindle Unlimited versus not, and more. So you have it all in one place. So just as an example, if you're a romance author, and a paranormal romance author at that, you know, there's like 7, 8 subcategories. So you see exactly what is the sales volume, what is the volume growth, what is the price realization. And then we had these pictures, like these maps, you know, is it in the green or in the orange? So if you're in paranormal romance, you're still good, right? But see, it's hot mainstream. So it's high selling, but it's getting really competitive. So have a look at what are the niches, and is there any way to further niche the market down? Then we have a video wall covering all the essentials, like I explain things here very visually and hopefully in plain English. This is not mathematics, but you get all the things in a way that you can understand the concepts. And then for those, some of us are into spreadsheets, Joanna, right? I love to play with them. I think you too. Some are more visual and just give me a table and say where it is on the map. So at least for the subcategory level, we also have it in map form every month, and what's going in and out the map. And then we talked about trends earlier. So you don't have to, right? So we watch the trends and we monitor as any of these categories shows a particular upswing, and that is sustainable upswing over 18 months, or downswing, you know, we let you know about alert, what is happening there, like the one we showed on Erotica versus clean romance. This is where we try to it's hard to be totally ahead of the curve, but you see the trends as they happen. And then there's yet another part of the website where some of you don't even want to deal with spreadsheets, right, Joanna? I think there is also quite a number of authors who say, no, I really want to have the writing. Show me a nice report that lists, okay, these are the 15 categories you should be in, because the top 100 bestsellers make use of them. This is what we have in the so-called genre seminars. So basically, the same thing that I do right now, like a 1-hour talk or 45 minutes talk about all the data, is boiled down to a genre in question. So and we can later talk about what's in there, but you know, really important and trending stuff is being covered. And the new genres are added. That's our mission, like every month. So especially if we see something is hot, for example, we just published one. I think some of your people, Joanna, also purchases one here, female detectives and sleuths, right? So female protagonists are really taking over the mystery genre, both as readers and protagonists. And here this was, by the way, Joanna, a big research, because we ran all the titles and book descriptions against a database of 16,000 female first names, and looked at the balance of female versus male pronouns in the book descriptions to basically filter out what are the best female detective books out there and female sleuth books.
And I just add there that I'm not a spreadsheet person. That's why I like that you do it. And I've got that clean romance one, and I've got that female detective one, and just went through it and picked out the I like the graphs and the lists. I'm going to leave the data with you, but I know my husband loves the data. So lots of different. There are some people, we've had several comments saying that the data and your graphs are sexy. So I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. If I'm not, at least my graphs are. That's thank you very much for the feedback. Yeah, no, I really, when I was still in the corporate world, we always said the analytics should be understandable for grandparents, children, and for corporate CEOs. So, if you can understand them, you may feel like a corporate CEO. Anyway, so here we are, and the whole seminar, we have all the access here. You can get all these categories here in the seminar and all the subgenres. So basically what you have to know is these individual genre reports that come as part of the membership there are more than 22, I think, right now. Each in its own right is a 60-page report and comes with an explanatory video. So you're not left alone. And then people use it for creative purposes. They use a little bit of paranormal, they use a little bit of urban, and then say, oh, how does this stuff deal with the latest trends in sci-fi to, try to even, get some inspiration for the creative part of the writing. And we had the question earlier, well, how do I find categories? So basically the database allows you to do what KDP doesn't allow you to do. So say you have a book about adventure, you type in adventure and you immediately see here, okay, there's women's adventure, erotica adventure, men's adventure, sea adventure. So you get the list of all the categories, and we're right now actually working to bring this also down to a level 4 and 5 experimentally. So a really exciting development. So Joanna, you allowed me to talk a little bit about this. I'm closing this this special here with, we basically served, let's say, a whole variety of people, ranging from the single author, who writes his or her first book, down to the indie publishing company who employs whatever 20 authors and X number of staff. So, but we have many authors who spread across here. So there's the premium tier where we cover a database with more than 400 down to the subcategory level, which I showed you some excerpts from, but also these genre seminars, the ready-made ones that we talked about and had the exhibit from. All the videos and tutorials are included, strategy making, and I'd say it's 60, if not 70% of the genre reports of these 22 are covered there, and we can go into more detail what might not be in there, but you get a long way with a premium membership across all genres. And then for those of you who are a bit more aspirational and have more needs, and you say, hey, this is cool, I really want to get my publishing career here into really also a publishing career, not just writing, there are the sub markets, and here you have all the content, everything, unlimited access. And Joanna asked me, hey, Joanna and I have been working together now for a couple of years, and she asked me, is there anything you can do here that your tribe, Joanna, has access for this here? And yes, we have today a special offer, and I want to present this, and then we can go into the Q&A, and I hope to answer as many questions as you have, either about the content or the offer for that matter. But basically, we have the following offer. You can choose either the premium membership, or you can choose the elite membership. For the premium membership, we discounted here with 21% off the list price, and it comes at $37 a month. And as said, there's a lot of content to consume. It will keep you busy for a while. And then we have for the more advanced users, the elite one. And here we basically have two options: monthly, discounted here at 50%, and it's $97 a month, or you go for the whole annual pass where you can really save. And to make it really attractive for you, because I know many people will shoot for the annual pass, is for Joanna's friends, we also, next to the discount, we added one bonus month for any of the elite signups. Why am I doing this? Because I believe Also, now that we do further experiments, Elite is really, really cool. And you can have it for a whole year, but if you do this annual payment and I add you the additional month, more or less effectively can get Elite for the price of Premium. It's a really cool offer that we're going to have open for you for the next 7 days. And you can go to the link here, k-lytics.com. I hope if you now all go at once, that the site doesn't crash, because I don't have like a super high performing one. If it does, it's going to be up there 7 days, or if you have to talk to your husband and wife, you know, and we've all been there. But your link is k-lytics.com/Joanna, as printed here. I think Joanna is also going to put it briefly into the chat as we go along. And also, I hope you could build some trust here. It's totally risk-free for you. We really have, and I can comment about later, real 100% customer satisfaction policy. Some of you will already know some of the reports we do, and you have a 14 days money back guarantee as well. And obviously it's a membership. You can cancel it anytime, no questions asked. Just drop me an email and I cancel your PayPal profile, right? So go to k-lytics.com/Joanna. I hope to see you in the members area. I thank you that you bore with me here these 10 minutes of a sales pitch here at the end. And I think it's a really cool thing. I love working with Joanna and with her people. So I hope to welcome you there, but I also see we have a lot of questions. And of course, Joanna and I want to get your questions answered. And by all means, if we don't get through in time, I will take care that we answer as many, if not all, as possible later personally via email.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Alex. I've got notes and some little hacks that I've put down to start having a look. And I think if anyone, I know a couple of people are feeling a bit overwhelmed, and that's okay, because you're going to get the replay. So you can follow that, you know, like the ASIN drill down, for example. I also put in the chat how to contact Amazon Author Central, so you can get your your subcategories in there. Oh, also, just while Alex is having a rest and a little drink there before we get into the Q&A, some people have said, is it impossible to work this out manually? No, it is not impossible, but one of the reasons I wanted to get Alex on is because what I think when you do it manually, or you try and do it manually, you're not really able to get in the granular detail. Plus, I know I just get really bored and over it. And I'm just like, do you know what? I do not want to spend my time doing this. I literally do not want to. I think it's a very interesting question to have this done. Also, the data changes regularly. So, Alex, just again, how often are you, actually, I've got a sort of sub question. How often does Amazon add new sub categories, or whatever the level is? And how often are you scraping the data?
Right. So first of all, it's not just like a computer scraping exercise. It gets a lot of, quality assurance in this as well. Lots of manual work, because Amazon changes also the website quite a bit in the way data is displayed. And we basically have the updates for the database. It's updated every month, and we sort of, with this, monthly is the right value, because you want to not get carried away by a very short-term spike or peak or trough. You want to have like meaningful averages. So we process the whole thing monthly, both for the premium and for the elite data. Then the genre reports that you've seen there, we usually go for an interval depending on the genre every 4 to 6 months, and then the ones that are lower in demand every year. Some things tend to be stable, some things in the detail do change. So one of the next upcoming one is, we have, I think, the next urban fantasy one is coming up. We have a new religion and spirituality, lots of things in the pipeline, and that's how we update the data.
Fantastic. And I might just put the link to the genre reports in the chat as well. I've put the links to the main data. So just to be clear, the genre reports just pick one subcategory, like sweet and clean romance, whereas the data, which I've gone through myself, I'm in the elite category. So those are some examples of reports on the screen. The data is you get access to that data that you showed us, and you can actually work out, for example, what category you could rank in because there aren't many competitors. Or, which is how I've used it. It's that kind of, okay, this is the, if I put, I can't think of an example off. Oh, angels, that was one. So one of my books has got an angel in, but not all of them do. So I used angels as one of the subcategories for that book based on your data, which you actually showed today. So everyone's going to jump into angels. But that's the difference, right?
There we go. So basically, you're exactly right. So for any one of these genre reports that are here in the members area, if you open each one of them, they come with a video or sometimes a number of videos and reports, sometimes even a number of reports. So for example, Paranormal would have an add-on report on Shifter, an add-on one on potentially Dragon. I don't remember exactly. But when you then go in there, in each of these reports, they are all like 60 pages long, some longer. You get trends, you get the best categories. People ask for, well, who are the top authors in that niche? Who are the top publishers in that niche if you're seeking a publisher? We also do some, keyword research as well. Cover art is an exciting one because, everybody can talk about cover art, probably Joanna, at length, about opinions. But what we do, we try to sift out the opinions, say, okay, over time, what were the top 30 top selling covers? And here, for example, an example from the urban fantasy study, that was the last year's one. We're just this week updating the new one. And it's really interesting to see how covers change over time, right? Because you go in romance, you go for the bare-chested guy, you suddenly see black and white, then the bearded guys, and you can follow these things and you see immediately, no, it's not about standing out from the crowd with the cover. It's probably about how to emulate what the readers click on and have an emotional connection with when it comes to color scheme and mood and all these sort of things.
Just a question there on pricing. If people buy that year's pricing, does it carry on after the first year is up? So can you guarantee that price, or will it be a small incremental change or something like that?
Currently, we're not planning an incremental change because as more people come on board, we, if anything, I try to make it less expensive, and it's also not a renewal. The other ones are like monthly renewals, which you can cancel anytime. If you do the annual one, it's like a one-time purchase. It's valid for a whole year, and as said, everybody who does this with Joanna here is going to get a 13-month on top. So basically, you get the whole deal of Elite for almost the premium price.
Yeah, and just on the technical questions, we're going to put your email, or just tell everyone your email, and then we're going to put it up at the end as well. What's your email?
Well, absolutely. You can contact me anytime here at support@k-lytics.com. There I can answer personal questions. If you just in the subject line do whatever, Joanna webinar or something, then I can prioritize it and we can have a look that I can also personally attend to the important questions.
That's fantastic. So any of these sort of, Alex is great and he's very friendly. Look at that face. Look at that little friendly face there. So you can,
the internet entrepreneur can't get rid of the bloody suit. But here we go.
I think it's great. Okay, just a couple of quick fire questions.
Yes.
Does K-lytics data only cover Kindle, or is it also relevant for the books category, which is the print books? So just so people know, there's Kindle, there's books, there's audiobooks, they're all separate. So is K-lytics just Kindle?
Right. So at the moment, the data is just Kindle. We started delving, I don't want to go here into big content, but right now, what you will see in the members area, there are also, we started discovering, what is the format penetration in certain categories. But you see all the big high selling ones, romance, mystery, thriller, suspense, literature, fiction, sci-fi, teens travel, all, are like totally dominated by the E format. And for the other ones, E is really a good indicator market. We started diving into the print ones. It's not, however, cannot be published yet. Why? Because Amazon, I don't want to get carried away, Joanna, but Amazon is advertising print bestseller list, but once you start clicking on the top 100 list, you find books that don't even have a print edition in it. So technically, Amazon is publishing Kindle bestseller list and book bestseller lists, and the book bestseller lists, they cut across format.
Fantastic. That's really useful. Another question, quick fire. What would be considered a low competition category? Is it less than 2,000 titles? Or if people want to try and do it manually and they haven't got your graph, how would they know what is a low competition category?
Yeah, so basically you get, if you go over on Amazon and try to figure out the category size yourself, first of all, you have to clear your cache of the computer. You probably have to use a US-based VPN. So if you're in the Kindle store, right, and you start going into the categories, you would have to go here into the left-hand side. So for example, here is the categories. Now, mind you, these are not the bestseller lists. These are the so-called browse categories. Now, once you click here, for example, let's take, for argument's sake, which one shall we take, Joanna? Let's take travel, no, teen and young adults. So once you click there, it takes you to that department. Now, Amazon used to have the information right up front. Now it's pretty much here at the bottom. And you see, if it's more than 60,000 search results, you don't get an exact result. You can, however, since we've been tracking the increment every month, we still have exact results down to the title. And here's another hack that you can do. So manually, you would go down, okay, let's see what looks like a small one. Let's go into whatever here, personal health. Now, let's have a non-fiction one. And immediately you see it's less than 1,000 titles. Here, you can get to an exact value if you click on the gallery view, which is this one here. Click on the right-hand side. Then, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the gallery of 60 books. Click next page, which will take you on page number 2 as a result. And now you have to apply this little hack, which is, you see in the URL at the top, there is a parameter called page equals 2. So what you have to do is at the very bottom, you have to, oh, there's 24 pages that Amazon wants to show me. If you then manually click here, that's really nerdy stuff, Joanna. If you manually, change the 2 into, what did I say, 24, it takes you to the last display page, and it will tell you there is in total 1,426 books, English, in this case, complete books. You can also do an advanced search to narrow it down to English. And this way you would have found out that in terms of book supply, teen and young adult personal health is what you could call a hot sell, not a sell, whether it's high selling or not. You would then have to go here to the bestseller view, because mind you, what is shown here is not necessarily in order of sales. I'm getting carried away here, but you have to switch, if you do this manually, over to the bestseller view, go down to Kindle bestsellers, then go down into wherever the teen and young adult personal health one is, personal health, and then you would have to open up each of these books, right? And then go into their information, go to the bottom, and put this little number here in a spreadsheet, and then do this 7 days a week to get a little bit of a feel of what the real sales rank performance is of the genre in question. Joanna, I hope I'm not getting too geeky, but I'm a geek when it comes to these
well,
things.
And I think this is really important. I mean, when you talked at the beginning about the 4.8 million titles, and I think the really important thing for us all to acknowledge in this is big data is only getting bigger. And, people use the phrase big data for a reason. It's really big, and you can do this manually. Absolutely. We're not saying that you have to buy anything at all. I have done this manually until I found Alex. But, this is the thing. You can do it manually. It just takes some work. This is really what Alex has done with the reports, which are very, which are just very specific, and also the data that you can use at a much more granular level. That is to help you if you don't want to spend the time doing it manually. And also, I hope you've heard the enthusiasm in Alex's voice for the data, and I hope you can hear in mine that I'm not enthusiastic about doing it myself manually. So this is the thing. I just feel so very grateful that we have people who are doing tools now. Some people have asked, about KDP Rocket in the chat. KDP Rocket is a keyword tool, and I recommend K-lytics and KDP Rocket kind of, all the time, because when I started out, none of this was available and you had to do it manually. That little hack with the ASIN number and finding your subcategories, that's something I've just learned. And when that went away at Christmas, I was like, oh no. So I just want to reiterate again, yes, you can do it manually. And if you need the replay to just check how Alex did it, then no worries, go ahead. If you want to get into it more, then check out in the chat there, I've put the links to both the genre reports, which are the lower price products, and also the full data offer there. And Alex, can you just put up your email again? People asking.
Yes, I put it in the chat, but it's very simple. It's support at the domain name here, K-lytics.com. And yeah, people, I see here also the questions. We just had the question, Dave's great tool, Katie Rocket, or the other one, Katie Spy by Wesley, right? These are great tools. But I use them for more tactical purposes, right? Because they are like real-time tools. Dave does a very good job on the keyword stuff. I think we use other providers for our keyword information, and then occasionally I always, of course, look what does Dave's tool bring up with. But I think the main difference is K-lytics is not a tool. That's very important. It's not it's a database, yes, but it's not a tool. And I think the prime distinctions is two, and this is how you can also make them work in unison. The first thing is the other tools, the real-time tools, and by the way, you also find these tools not just for Kindle, you find them for any, Amazon seller tools, Joanna. The thing is, many of these tools are real-time snapshot of what is the performance and the top books in the whatever teen and young adult sci-fi romance category right now. But as I said, the sales rank, this is here just over a 24-hour period of this book, is plus minus 4,000, and you see all these fluctuations here. So if you look at and use your real-time tool at this point in time, right, when the performance is 20,000, well, 3 days later, it's 108,000. What we do is we look at this over time so that we can produce an average so that you don't have to, because with the other tools, you still have to do the legwork. That's the one distinction. On the other, I just want to show you on the website itself, because when we go to the members area, so for example, Joanna is a big fan of the genre reports, right? So if you click on the genre reports, it would take you here to the genre reports. Let's say you're interested in, my God, what was hot here, female detectives. You go to download here, so you don't have to do the legwork, right? So you get immediately, okay, here's the report on female detectives and sleuths. You get an explanatory video, this is just here from February 2018. And if you click on it, then you don't have to do like even number crunching yourself, because the thing is opening up, and what you have is then a 60-page research just on female detectives. I'm not going to show all this, but you get here the trend graphs. This is all not possible with tools, right? You get what is trending high, what is low, how does it relate to things, and all the way down, if I scroll down, we have keywords. What are the categories that the top 100 bestsellers use? Who are the top authors? Who are the top publishers? What tropes? We even went into trope analysis. What tropes or sub-genres earn the highest royalties? Here, is it the detective, the investigator, the prosecutor? What are the most favored terms that readers buy, see it gets into the 100,000s detail all the way down to top cover art, you name it. And you get usually in the reports, well, this is not to bloat the reports, but people want to say, well, give me the blurbs, the book descriptions of the top 100 titles so that I don't have to look them up. So this gives you a bit of a feel. So it's not a tool, it's a member family. It's a research repository.
Well, I think the point is that people are getting, you were a consultant just like me, and you are still a consultant. People are basically getting access to your brain, and that's what I appreciate. We are almost done because of the time. I do just want to ask, Parker has asked if he joins as premium now, so he can really get into it and understand it, can he upgrade to elite at this special price?
Yes, I mean, we have no written policy on it, but usually I say, I'm a friendly guy and I work together with people. So if somebody says, hey, I just did my premium membership and I'd like to upgrade, you will get reimbursed your premium membership. And of course, I will then upgrade you if you choose, hey, this is cool, I want to have even more, no worries at all. And likewise, the other way around, we have people say, well, it's really cool for the start of my book project. I went through all the elite data, but now I'm writing my series. I just want to cut back to premium to be in touch with the trends and latest book reports. That's possible too.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, I hope you guys know that I wouldn't bring anybody on here that I didn't trust. And I've only had wonderful support from Alex. And if you have an issue with him, you can contact me and I'll go beat him up. But he's been wonderful as far as, everything I've seen. He's very, very good.
No, Joanna, we're going to beat you up, but that's going to be at the next soccer championship, football championship.
We don't talk about football on this show. Okay, so I just have one last question. It's a personal question because I'm interested, which is, what is the relationship between author rank and category? And if people don't know, this is something cool to keep an eye on, is if you're doing well in the overall, like where your book is in the rank, if you go and check your author rank, sometimes you can get cool screen prints. So I have screen prints of like me next to Stephen King or Lee Child, like I'm just beating them for the hour. But so do you know the rank relationship between author rank and category?
Now, this is a hypothesis, having looked at a little bit of the data, but you now give me the homework to do a real empirical research in. But it looks as if the author rank is actually more or less an aggregate of individual books' performance, right? And now, if the book is categorized in the book and you have a certain author rank in a certain category, I presume, and I think that what makes, again, the categories interesting again, is that you have to be in the right category. So to have at least, we talked about breadth of categories, right? But you want to have one, when we went through this whole approach, you want to have one or two common denominators so that all the books potentially count towards the author rank in a certain category, your main category that you want to be the authority in, if you will. But you just gave me a really good homework to do some empirical work on that as well.
Aha, fantastic. I'm so pleased. And I have definitely got so much out of this evening. I hope everybody's enjoyed it and written some notes and found out some interesting stuff. And we've got people geeking out. Gary's geeking out. We've definitely got some sexy data comments. So we're going to finish up this evening. If you have, or wherever you are in the world, so if you have any questions, you can email Alex at k-lytics.com. And Alex will be sending out the replay and all the links and things within the next 24 hours. He's got some more homework to format that. And if you have any questions, well, preferably technical questions, ask Alex. If you have any personal questions, you're welcome to email me, Joanna at thecreativepenn.com. But definitely, let Alex know if you have any questions about the membership or anything like that. So Kelly says, thanks so much. My mind is blown. Debbie, lots of food for thought. Christy says, thank you so much. So thank you, everybody. We're going to sign off tonight. Happy publishing, happy categories. And thanks so much for your time as well, Alex. That was great. And thanks, everyone. And good night. We'll be off. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.